Let's now begin the show with, of course, Microsoft's big India bet. In fact, Microsoft's president Satya Nadella was in Delhi today after addressing the first leg of his visit in Bengaluru yesterday. In fact, he was also addressing the second leg of the Microsoft AI tour. And he expanded on yesterday's announcements around Microsoft actually investing $3 billion in cloud and AI infrastructure and, of course, skilling in the country. Now, Satya Nadella said that the $3 billion investment is the best stimulus to partners in the energy sector, and these investments will eventually turn into GDP growth for the country. He also added that Microsoft's platforms are grounded in trust and security. Let's take a look at what else did he have to say.
And I sort of see India as like the best place where I think Nandan yesterday called it the use case capital of the world. And I like that metaphor because I come here and I learn a lot about how to have really broad impact. And the scale in India is the other thing, right? Numbers here for anyone, is just, hundreds of millions of users of anything. And so that's the other side of it, which is exciting to see. As a multinational company, I don't take sort of our permission to operate in India as granted. I think of it as it has to be earned each day by ensuring that our participation in the Indian economy is leading to local surplus. That means small businesses here are getting more productive, the public sector is getting more efficient, large companies out of India are becoming globally competitive because of our contributions or help, and health outcomes, education outcomes. So that's, at the end of the day, our mission is to empower every person in every organization in India to achieve more. Now, so that means we have to bring the best world-class technology and innovation and ensure that people are able to build value add on top of it, intentional use it. It's just not usage of our technology. It's the value add on top of that technology that gets created, that is made in India. So I always say that as a platform company, we fundamentally have to be long on India's success. And that's sort of what we're squarely focused on.
In fact, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Nadella was, as you saw on your television screens, was in conversation with the Minister of State for IT, Jitin Prasada. In fact, the duo expanded on how India's scale is unprecedented, and that really is India's strength. Minister Prasada then went on to say that government will not really over-regulate AI to stifle innovation, but it will not hesitate either to bring in new laws to tackle misinformation. Let's listen into what the minister had to say.
The government is very clear that it is pro-innovation, and we don't want to over-regulate to stifle innovation. That's very clear and has been the story so far. But of course, we are aware of the risks that AI involves. We've seen elections in a democratic setup. We've, in our last Lok Sabha election, there was a deep fake on the Home Minister, which was, going very viral. But so those are big challenges, and misinformation is there. So right now we are looking at pro-innovation with the existing laws that we have and the intermediary guidelines that have been set. So it's more of self-regulation, and that's where Microsoft and the big tech companies come, where it's all about trust. But I must tell you that the challenge becomes bigger. The government will not hesitate in bringing in legislation and new laws to tackle this issue.
In fact, the minister was also touching upon how during the general Lok Sabha general elections, Home Minister Amit Shah's video also went viral, and of course it was altered by AI. So he was speaking about countering the onslaught of misinformation and stating that the government will not really hesitate to bring in any news related to AI-related misinformation. But ladies and gentlemen, sticking with the Microsoft story, but moving on, well, I caught up with Microsoft India and South Asia's President Puneet Chandok to get a sense of how is the company looking at deploying the $3 billion worth of investments that have been announced by the company. In fact, Puneet was also speaking to me about the key trends that the company is going to witness, and of course the whole industry is going to witness in 2025, and how much of things moved ever since ChatGPT and of course all of these other AI models, LLMs, became very prominent.
I'm super excited about the investment announcements that Satya made for two reasons. One, I think this combination of investing in tech infrastructure and data centers and AI infrastructure for the country, but also investing in human capital, because you ultimately need both. You need tech infrastructure and human capital. And then second, I think a lot of the, like I call this from promise to proof, right? The conversation has moved from skepticism to, listen, is AI going to work, to show me the use cases and show me impact. So I think those two things have come together. Specifically on skilling, very excited because if you remember, we announced the first commitment in February 2024 to train 2 million people, and I was so pleased that we've already trained 2.4 million people. More than 60% of them are women. More than 70% of them come from Tier 2, Tier 3 cities. So it was just an incredible scale that we built. And now to train 10 million people over the next 5 years on AI skills and really build India as the talent capital for AI. India is truly breaking through when it comes to AI, right? Be it the market, be it the supply side. And if we can play a role in making that happen, this is something that we're super excited about.
Right. And how do you look at deploying those investments over the next couple of years? And which sectors within the AI domain are of specific interest to Microsoft?
So I think, so two separate questions. So starting with the second one first, which is just the domains. And I think if you just look at, so every industry, every function in this country today is being invented and reinvented. If you just look at the announcements we made in the last 2 days, and I'll start with RailTel, where we're partnering with them to look at digital transformation in railways and public sector in India.
Right.
With Upgrad to skill people on GenAI and certify them. Mahindra Group to look at auto, farm, finance. Bajaj Finance, 15-year-old relationship. We're kind of saying, listen, we're going to drive digital transformation for their customers together. And then finally, Apollo, which is really exciting, healthcare. Like, how do we really co-develop for the world, healthcare for the world out of India, right? So if you just look at, and they represent financial services and healthcare and government and public sector pretty much across the board. It's just an incredible set of innovation that's happening. And Microsoft's playing, in fact, some of the statistics I shared earlier today, 800 plus customers today on Azure OpenAI building. And I say this with all humility, but Microsoft's becoming the home for India to build AI, which we are super excited about. 10x growth in copilots, which are the AI agents. And again, customers, for every dollar that they're spending on GenAI with us, they're getting $5 of benefit. I think that is something that we're super excited about, and we'll continue to invest in that.
Okay, so Puneet, one thing that you mentioned during your keynote was, about the last AI, Microsoft AI tour. I think it was Mr. Nadella who mentioned. I want to understand from you how much have AI models changed from last year, and what does it really say about the future that really stares us in the eye? What kind of changes can we expect?
No, it's amazing. Right? On one end, there's so much that's happened in the last 12 months. On the other end, we're just getting started, right? And I think to me, these models, by the way, 2 years ago, we didn't know what these models are. Now they're kind of rolling out of our tongues like there's no tomorrow. But they're getting larger and smaller at the same time. So you've got large LLMs being built and small language models and then tiny language models. The other thing is they're no longer the chat llamas that we're used to, right? They're remarkable capabilities. They can see us, they can hear us, they can understand us, they have our context. They're almost like a second brain, a companion to us. And the three implications that I spoke about, which I'm super excited about, one is just more intelligence coming. So we're reducing the cost of intelligence every day. And imagine intelligence to a first-year doctor, to a first-year lawyer, to a first-year journalist, right? It's just incredible, to a first-year technologist. I'm not first-year, but I wish I had that intelligence at that time. Empathy, right? Just our digital experience is so cluttered and so noisy, and there's so much drudgery. Can we bring real personality and empathy and tone to this AI? And then finally, agency, which I'm super excited about, which is where the magic happens, when these models start working for you with your permission, but without your involvement. Like the example I gave, which is I'm taking a flight to Bangalore. I want these two things done. By the time I land, can you give me a proposal? Can you give me a presentation? Can you get this done? And by the time I land, it's there. So AI is working with me, not for me. And I think that's a very important distinction. And I think we'll see a lot more intelligence coming in the next year or two. We'll see a lot more empathy, which I'm excited about. And then a lot more agency.
What will it look like?
I think it'll look like multiple facets of this, right? One is intelligence has massive implications. Going back to something that Satya had said, which is AI reduces the floor and raises the ceiling, which means that people can get started. If intelligence is cheaper, easier to access, imagine your first year in journalism, right? If you had all the information, expertise, judgment that you now have as a first-year journalist, right, on the tip of your fingers, you can do so much. And now, as a tenured journalist, if you can take all the grudge and the drudgery and the transactional work out of your life, you can do so much more. So I think that has massive implications on intelligence. On empathy, again, I think this will become a companion. Your AI will be different from mine. My co-pilot will be peculiar to me and my style and my capabilities. Yours will be yours, which is interesting. And then I think agency is where we'll see a lot of, if you look at, I joke with my teams, right? The biggest employer today is inefficiency. There's so much inefficiency across the board. Imagine if these agents can do a lot of transactional work for us.
Right.
They understand our context, they understand our preferences, they get stuff done for us. And with our permission, but not our involvement, I think just we can really unlock productivity and creativity in a way that we've never seen before.
Absolutely, and with that comes a bit of anxiety as well about what the future really holds. And Puneet, you mentioned a very important point about all of these AI models getting deployed, and I think Mr. Nadella was also mentioning about how the workforce of the future is going to look like, wherein you will have your own AI model, AI bot or model
Copilot,
Copilot.
AI agent. Yeah,
all right, AI
yes.
agent you'll
Yes.
have, and which is where the importance of responsible AI really comes in. And of course, you were having a chat with the Honorable Minister of State as well for IT, wherein he said that responsible AI has that is a key for India, and India is not going to stifle innovation. But I want to understand from you, when we talk about the India market and India's capabilities, of course, there is a whole host of talent, Indian talent, which is based in the US. I want to understand from you, where are India's strengths with respect to AI as far as AI is concerned? Because a whole host of startups are also working in this domain. Is it about LLMs or is it elsewhere?
So I think your question had 2 or 3 parts. The first thing on responsible AI, I think this is super important. And I always say this, right? When you're building technologies that can change the world, you have to build them responsibly, right? It can't be an afterthought. It can't be saying, listen, so it has to be, and the way we're building AI is secure by design, secure by default, and a set of principles around transparency, removing biases, really making sure that we're reflecting the reality. And so that's one thing, and we're super focused on this, and it's priority number 1, security and just responsible AI, and that's how we'll scale this. I think that's an important one. To your part around how do we kind of drive and execute this and get this going, and to your point on Indian startups, and we met some startups this morning, and I'm seeing a difference in the last 2 years, right? Startups in India today using AI are accessing the same amount of research, the same amount of technology that the world is, right? They're not waiting for years for this technology to come in. So in fact, I met some startups this morning who are basically building stuff which is truly groundbreaking for the world. The world hasn't seen that innovation. And with AI, and I'm seeing more curiosity in startups, I'm seeing more fearlessness, I'm seeing more ambition. And that goes back to this point around this technology is diffusing at a speed that we've never seen before. And that will create a ton of opportunities for Indian startups and Indian businesses to innovate for the world.
Puneet, just a few set of questions before we let you go. Mr. Nadella also said that AI will play a huge role in pushing India towards its goal of a $5 trillion economy goal. But specifically speaking, how is Microsoft looking at contributing to that goal?
I think our mission in India is AI for everyone. And to make that a reality beyond the slogan is 3 things. One is, how do we constantly bring the best of Microsoft to our customers, our partners, startups, digital natives, enterprises, financial services, really make impact real for them. Second, do stuff that moves the country forward, right? So the announcement on $3 billion, the 10 million people to be trained, 2.4 million already trained, all the MOU that we just announced with the AI mission, all of that is intended to move the country forward, right? And Satya says this beautifully, right? We have to earn our right to operate in the country, and we have to make sure that all of us as Indians are moving the country forward. And then the third part of this mission is to build India's best, most diverse, most inclusive technology team, which is, you spoke about talent earlier in the US and all of that. And I'm constantly looking for talent, both in India. We've got 25,000 engineers in India now. But how do we scale talent so that we can build and take this to our customers?
Absolutely. And one final question before we wrap up this interaction. Puneet, what kind of disruptions do you see in AI going forward, and 3 key trends in AI that will stand tall this year?
I think the first trend we'll see a lot more of what I call zero-shot innovation, which is co-pilots, which is AI agents. And with everything that I spoke about, intelligence, empathy, agency, but that I just see scaling up dramatically, because that is zero-shot innovation off the box, get started today. You don't have to intellectualize a lot of this. The second innovation we will see is in a set of use cases, going back to the use case capital of the world, a set of vertical use cases, I call them numerator use cases, which are top-line impact, allow you to sell more, and bottom-line denominator use cases, which allow you to be more efficient and productive. And we're seeing use cases by auto sector, by pharma, for financial services, and you'll see a lot of innovation there. And then the third trend is a lot of innovation on the LLMs and SLMs. And Satya spoke about reframing what frontier means for India, right? How do we really work with these models, remove the tokenization tax, make them easier to access, cheaper, more effective? And I think that's where India can play a really, really fascinating role.
All right. On that note, thank you very much once again for joining us and sharing your thoughts with us.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You're watching Startup Central, and let's now put the spotlight on Ola, whose shares were under pressure today, but they recovered eventually. Why? Well, this came after the company received an administrative warning from SEBI for violating disclosure norms. Now, this warning came in for the company's planned network expansion. But why exactly? Well, my colleague Ankur Mishra is now joining in with the details. Ankur, what are you picking up, and why did SEBI push that?
Yes, market regulator SEBI has issued administrative warning to Ola Electric regarding the disclosure norms, citing violations of regulations disclosure regulations. Now, this has happened because Bhavish Agarwal had made the company announcement on X, which was formerly called at Twitter, before actually disclosing to the exchanges. The warning is related to Ola Electric's announcement of a planned fourfold expansion of the company-owned store network by December 20, and the announcement actually happened on exchanges at 1:30 p.m. But before that, the announcement was actually made on X, which happened on December 2 around 10 a.m. So all in all, the allegation is that why the announcement was made on micro-blogging site before it actually happened on exchanges, and therefore a warning has been given to the company. The above violations have been viewed very seriously. That is what the letter which has been sent by market regulator to Ola Electric says. However, it does not have any financial implication on the company. Ola Electric has mentioned that this letter has been received on January 7 by them.
All right. Thank you very much, Ankur, for filling us in with all of those details. So definitely Ola is facing heat from other regulators. Remember, there have been other complaints by customers as well with respect to its service centers. But now this notice, this warning coming in from SEBI. Meanwhile, let's look at some news coming in from the food delivery space, which is heating up. Well, both food delivery giants Swiggy and Zomato are now launching 15 minutes food delivery. Swiggy even launched a new app called Snack, which will deliver food in 15 minutes. And reports suggest that even Zomato is planning to launch a 15-minute food delivery tab on their app. And our final story for the day before we wrap up this edition of Startup Central. Well, Meta, which owns social media giants like Facebook and Instagram, has announced to end the use of third-party fact-checkers in the United States. Well, Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg announced that this fact-checking will be replaced by community notes, which are similar to the ones that are seen on Elon Musk's social media platform X. This move now puts the onus of content moderation and accuracy on users and not really on the platform. Now, Elon Musk has responded to that, and he's called the emulation cool. In fact, in a video address, Zuckerberg has slammed fact-checkers, and he's termed them as biased. He's also called to return to free expression. But why is this update coming in now, and why the volte-face? Well, apparently, Zuckerberg is seeking to improve relations with the incoming US President Donald Trump after banning him from his platforms in 2021, and that amidst probe in the US Capitol attack. Remember, these restrictions were lifted only in July 2024, which was in the run-up to the US elections last year, and that Donald Trump won by a huge margin. Donald Trump and his allies, meanwhile, have slammed Meta in the past for its fact-checking policies, and they even called it a censorship of right-wing voices. But now Trump has hailed the rollback. With that, ladies and gentlemen, it's time's up from us right here on Startup Central. Hope you like the show as much as we did putting it together for you. Goodbye and thanks very much for staying with us.